Sean Diddy Combs rejected a plea deal just 4 days before his federal trial is set to begin. Combs could spend the rest of his life in prison if he's found guilty on all charges. Here's ABC's chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky.
So the feds offered Diddy a plea deal and he turned it down, and his federal case got immediately worse for him. I bet he's regretting his decision. So when Diddy went in and he turned down the plea deal, he got a minute win and a major loss all at the same time.
So Diddy might have just cemented his fate to spend the rest of his life in jail because the feds offered him a plea deal, and guess what he did? He threw it right back in their faces. So, according to reports, the feds offered him a pretty good deal, considering everything he has been accused of and the mountain of evidence against him. But Diddy wasn't feeling it. He felt like the deal would take everything from him, not just his money and family, but his legacy and everything he has ever worked for. However, sources close to the feds are saying Diddy made a huge miscalculation because the feds aren't playing around here with the kind of evidence they have against him. He'll be lucky if the jury isn't calling for his head by the end of the trial. So what are the stakes here? Did Diddy just make the most fatal mistake of his entire life? Let's break it down. As you'll probably know, Diddy's trial is drawing closer and the court is already locking down the jury for the trial. According to reports, every time Diddy appears in court, he looks thinner and sicker than the last time. We're literally witnessing the man age in geometric progression. I guess that's what happens when you take a man away from his freak-offs and million-dollar mansions. But here's the kicker. Diddy just made a serious gamble on his life by rejecting the plea deal the prosecutors offered him. The prosecutors were like, look, we can end this now, just take this plea deal and everything could be over right now. He's on trial for serious crimes. We're talking multiple federal X-crimes like racketeering conspiracy, X-trafficking by force, fraud or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Like this man got himself a RICO case all by himself. That's wild.
This dude Diddy really thinks he's going to beat his case. He just rejected his plea deal. And here's the thing. He's not just facing one federal charge. He's facing 5 federal charges. He's got counts of trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy. These are serious charges, bro. And if he's guilty on all 5 counts, he's serving life in prison. If the feds come and sweep you up, that means that they have all the evidence that they need to convict you. At least if you have a plea deal, you have a possibility of enjoying the free world. His trial starts May 5th. That's when the jury selection begins. It's crazy to see Diddy being like this super powerful person in the music industry, Bad Boy Records. He grinded so hard to get to this point, to have generational wealth and never worry about anything ever again. And now he's going to be spending the rest of his life in jail. That's crazy.
So, rejecting this plea deal, that's a huge gamble. It's not like taking the plea deal will make him spend only like 1 year in jail and get to keep all his fancy toys. But it's still better than what he would be facing if he were convicted on all charges. Like, not even close.
Diddy has been offered a plea deal. He didn't take it, but what that means is that even though he has pled not guilty, that the government came back to him and said, if you just plead guilty, we're going to give you a lighter sentence than you would get if you go to trial and are found guilty on all of these charges. So if you take the plea deal, there's no trial. Diddy has rejected the plea deal, which means that he is betting, he and his defense team are betting that the outcome of the trial is going to garner him a lighter sentence than whatever it is that he was offered in the plea deal. The details of the plea deal have not been made public, so we don't know what it was. Definitely still involves jail time for sure. But the maximum for the crimes that he's charged with right now is life. So it was either go to trial and risk getting a life sentence based on how trial goes, how the arguments go, or take the plea deal and do whatever the time that they're offering is. He didn't take it.
Now, let's break down what all of this means. Diddy's crimes are so serious that if convicted on all the charges, he wouldn't just be spending a few years behind bars. He would be spending the rest of his life behind bars. And that's not even counting all the other things he would lose if he's found guilty. I mean, he has already lost so much. He had the keys to NYC before these charges came out. And after they did, the city was like, we'd like our keys back, please. He also lost multiple brand deals, was dropped bankrupt by his talent management company, lost his partnerships with Shirock and DeLeon, and had to step down from his position in his own company, Revolt Media, and sell his shares to an anonymous buyer. He has also been losing huge chunks of his music catalogue, which included originals from artists like Mary J. Blige, B.I.G. and Usher. And there's the fact that he has had to spend millions and millions in legal fees. In summary, this case has bled Diddy way more than anyone can imagine. Like, he went from billionaire status to a net worth of about $400 million in less than a year of fighting the case. And that's not counting all the money he has had to cough up since the beginning of the year, hiring new lawyers, paying muscles to intimidate witnesses, allegedly, and still taking care of his family. We all know court cases are very expensive, both financially and mentally. But when you're a billionaire in a RICO case all by yourself, the stakes are higher and the costs are direr. Now, as you all know, Diddy pleaded not guilty to all the charges. However, according to sources, the prosecutors have a mountain of evidence against him. And we're not talking just he said, she said accounts from witnesses. We're talking hundreds of bottles of lube and baby oil, thousands of freak-off recordings, pieces of clothing from alleged victims that he kept as souvenirs, text messages and phone records, witness accounts, and so on. There have been whispers floating around that there's DNA evidence somewhere in the pile, and the feds are pretty sure they can verify some of the alleged victims' identities, especially girls below the age who were trafficked for his freak-off parties. But it gets worse. There have also been rumors that the feds have many videos of Diddy putting his hands on women, giving them and asking them to sleep with other men. You know that video of Diddy putting his hands on Cassie in the hotel hallway? Well, apparently there's many more where that came from. But that's not even the worst part. The prosecutors already have an insane lineup of witnesses that are going to be super difficult for Diddy's team to disprove. They aren't just people who were there or saw or heard what happened. No, these are alleged victims who have their own horrific stories about what Diddy did to them. And guess what? One of those witnesses is none other than Cassie Ventura. Now, the other victim witnesses have asked for their names to be kept anonymous because they don't want Diddy sending his goons after them or having to deal with the social media backlash from Diddy's fans. Not Cassie, though. Cassie is testifying with her full government name, so everyone knows she stands solidly behind the accusations she made against Diddy. Diddy and his people have been pushing the narrative that Cassie and his other accusers were only in this for a payday. In fact, if that hotel hallway footage had never come out, Diddy would still be out here calling Cassie a liar and accusing her of a shakedown. However, Cassie is making it clear that even if she got paid, that's not enough for her and the other victims, and she's not hiding behind a screen to do that. She's going to look Diddy in the eyes while she testifies about all the horrific things he allegedly did to her. Oh, by the way, that hotel hallway video will also be shown as evidence.
The judge ruled that the prosecution can use one of the most damning pieces of evidence that they have, which is that brutal video of Cassie being beaten in that hotel. Now, this is super important to the prosecution because it's a really great way to show that he violently coerces people into things they don't want to do. His defense team has been doing everything that they possibly can to try to make sure that this video does not come out in court because they know that it's the kill shot, and now it's gonna be seen. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if the prosecution offers you a plea deal to settle out and not have to go to trial, and you refuse it and make them run that thing to trial and you get convicted, the judge is going to make an example out of you at sentencing.
Now, here's the kicker. In all this, Diddy's defense is that all his accusers were there willingly, and he didn't force anybody to do anything they didn't want to do. His legal team is calling this a swinger lifestyle. Basically, they're saying, look, Diddy might have been a freak, but being a freak is not illegal, and all the women and men knew what they were signing up for, and it was nothing criminal. His lawyer, Mark Agnifilio, said he was going to establish that the alleged bad behavior was part of a lifestyle. He added, it's relevant to the defendant's intent that there's a lifestyle called swingers, call it whatever you will, that he was in, that he might have thought was appropriate. Part of the reason people think it's appropriate is because it's common.
Diddy's lawyers wanted to put in the defense that he's a swinger, not a non-consensual rap artist. And the judge allowed them to use that as part of their defense, but he also stipulated that they're not allowed to use other famous swingers to try to normalize it.
And just so you know how Delulu Diddy and his lawyer are, they told the court that they were going to bring up other celebrities who also participated in this swingers lifestyle. They didn't mention any names, but there have been rumors that Will and Jada Smith, Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade popped up during this conversation as examples of celebrities with the swinger lifestyle. However, However, the prosecution shut that down with a quickness. One of the prosecutors, Maureen Comey, urged the judge to block Diddy from bringing up these people because they weren't the ones on trial, and it had nothing to do with the case. But at least one little good thing about this is that Diddy will be allowed to spruce up his looks for the jury selection process and the trial. The judge recently signed off on Diddy's being allowed to wear business casual clothes instead of his usual prison jumpsuits for this trial. Why is this important? Well, I don't know if you all have seen those sketches of Diddy in court, but he is not looking well at all, and those orange and beige jumpsuits just make him look like he's terribly ill. I mean, before going to jail, Diddy used to be a fashion guy. He was always on the magazine covers all blinged up, wearing his furs, leathers, and expensive suits, throwing his expensive parties. If you had told him back then that he would spend months wearing nothing but those terrible jumpsuits, he probably would have asked one of his bodyguards to dangle you off a balcony or something. But here we are. So, the judge gave Diddy permission to have up to 5 button-down shirts, 5 pairs of pants, 5 sweaters, 5 pairs of socks, and 2 pairs of shoes without laces to wear to court. It's a small thing, but when you're facing life in jail, you take your little wins where you can. And if we're being honest, this might actually be one of Diddy's last wins because things are not looking good for him right now. Even the judge had to ask Diddy twice whether he understood the consequence of rejecting the plea deal. With his own mouth, Diddy said he understood and didn't want the deal anyway. Then the judge started talking about jury selection. Now get this, according to sources who witnessed this meeting, the prosecutors are trying to ensure Diddy is not in the room when the prospective jurors are being questioned. For those who don't know, the jurors need to be asked about stuff like medical history, physical abuse, or essay history and some of their beliefs. It's all to make sure the jury is as balanced as possible. However, Diddy's lawyers argued that it's very important for Diddy to be in the room when these questions are being asked because they determine whether the jurors are likely to be on his side. It's not clear what the outcome was, but it's pretty obvious that this case isn't slowing down anytime soon. So, what do y'all think about this jury selection process? And do you think Diddy made a terrible decision by rejecting the plea deal? Let us know in the comments, and please check out this next video.